Be me, quiet homeowner, 28, working from home as a cybersecurity analyst. My little slice of suburban heaven was perfect. Fenced yard, established garden, peace and quiet. I spent my days hunting digital ghosts, my evenings cultivating actual plants. My house was modest but perfectly maintained, nestled in an older part of a planned community, subject to a homeowners association. Usually the HOA was a sleepy beast, only stirring to find someone for leaving their trash cans out too long. I liked it that way. Be not me, Brenda the Baroness Sterling, 50-something, HOA president, a woman who mistook a volunteer position for absolute monarchy. She moved in a year after me, bought the largest, gaudiest house on the block, and immediately decided our quaint community was her personal canvas for modernization. Her primary goal, it seemed, was to make everyone else miserable in her pursuit of an imagined aesthetic superiority. Her first edict, issued within weeks of her election, was a blanket mandate for all residents to replace their mailboxes with a specific, expensive, and frankly hideous model. My classic sturdy mailbox, which had weathered 30 years of storms, was now an eyesore. The cost for the new one, $700, non-negotiable of course. The escalation began subtly, a slow drip of irritation. I received a formal notice regarding my ancient oak tree. It was beautiful, provided incredible shade, and was specifically noted as a protected species in the original community charter. Brenda's notice cited excessive leaf litter and potential root damage to common property, completely unfounded claims. She demanded I hire her preferred arborist, at my expense, to trim back the tree, implying a drastic pruning that would ruin its natural shape. I politely but firmly referenced the community charter's protection clause. She sent back a passive-aggressive email about community cooperation and the spirit of the rules. I ignored it. Then came the lawn height incident. My grass, like most people's, grew. I mowed it every weekend. One scorching summer, I went away for a long weekend. When I returned, a bright orange violation sticker adorned my front door, citing excessive turf height. The fine was $50, escalating daily. My grass was, perhaps, an inch longer than usual, not even close to what the bylaws considered a violation. I sent a photo showing it well within reasonable limits. Brenda replied stating, "My interpretation of the bylaws indicates a maximum allowable height of 2 inches. Your lawn exceeded this." The actual bylaw stated no higher than 6 inches. She was just making it up, confident no one would push back. I paid the $50 to avoid further headaches, but the seed of resentment was firmly planted. The next specific incident was truly outrageous. My neighbor, an elderly lady named Mrs. Henderson, had a beautiful rose garden that bordered a small, unused common strip of land. Brenda decided this strip of land needed to become a community dog park, despite there being a perfectly good, existing park 2 blocks away. Mrs. Henderson's roses would be obliterated. Mrs. Henderson, a timid woman, was terrified. She came to me, weeping, explaining how Brenda had threatened to fine her daily for encroaching on common property if she didn't remove the roses herself. I offered to help her move them, but the true issue was Brenda's arbitrary power play. I discovered the HOA board had never actually approved a dog park, nor had any budget been allocated. It was purely Brenda's personal vendetta against Mrs. Henderson's prize-winning roses. I sent a terse email to Brenda, carbon copying the other, often silent board members, demanding proof of the dog park's approval and funding. Brenda's response was a frosty, "This matter does not concern you, Mr. Thompson." The breaking point arrived with a registered letter, not from the HOA, but from a law firm. Brenda had convinced the HOA board to initiate legal proceedings against me. The charges: obstruction of community improvements, repeated bylaw violations, referencing the mailbox, the tree, the lawn, and now, absurdly, an unapproved solar gnome in my garden, which didn't exist, and harassment of the HOA president. The letter demanded I pay outstanding fines totaling nearly $2,000, plus legal fees of $5,000, or face a lien on my property and potential foreclosure proceedings. My home, my sanctuary, was now directly threatened by Brenda's tyrannical delusions. This wasn't just an annoyance anymore. This was an existential threat. The thought of losing my quiet life, my garden, everything I'd worked for, because one woman had a God complex, ignited a cold, steady rage within me. My hands were shaking as I read the letter, but it wasn't fear. It was the thrill of the hunt. I stopped reacting and started plotting. My days became a precise, methodical investigation. The lawyer's letter provided a crucial loophole. It referenced specific HOA bylaws that Brenda claimed I violated. I owned a physical copy of the HOA bylaws, bound and dated from the community's inception. It was thick, dense, and full of legalese. I spent every spare moment for the next 2 months poring over it, cross-referencing every clause Brenda had ever cited. My cybersecurity skills, honed over years of finding vulnerabilities in complex systems, were now repurposed for a real-world target. First, the solar gnome was a clear fabrication. I had no such item. That was easy to disprove with a time-stamped video of my garden. Second, the mailbox bylaw she referenced. It explicitly stated, mailboxes may be replaced at the homeowner's discretion, provided they meet USPS size and security requirements. There was no clause mandating a specific aesthetic. The only place such a rule appeared was in Brenda's own President's Monthly Memo, which carried no legal weight. Third, the tree protection clause was ironclad. She tried to reinterpret trimming for safety as aggressive pruning to remove leaf litter, but the wording was clear. Any alteration beyond safety required a formal board vote and the homeowner's explicit consent, which she never had. Fourth, the lawn height. The bylaw stated 6 inches. I had photographic evidence of my lawn never exceeding 4. These were easy wins, but I wanted more. I wanted to dismantle her entirely. I expanded my research. I requested, under specific HOA transparency laws, all financial records, meeting minutes, and expense reports from the past 3 years. This was a tedious, deliberate process, involving certified letters and adherence to strict timelines. Brenda dragged her feet, but eventually, the law required her to comply. When the dusty boxes arrived, I found gold. Brenda had been systematically expensing lavish HOA improvement dinners at high-end restaurants, using HOA funds for consulting fees to her nephew's fledgling landscaping company, which never actually did any work. And most damningly, she had paid herself a presidential stipend of $500 a month, a stipend explicitly forbidden by the bylaws. Total embezzlement over 3 years, over $18,000, but the real trap was in the property lines. Brenda had been notoriously aggressive about asserting common property lines, demanding fences be moved, bushes trimmed, all to create open sightlines. She once forced a family to tear down their children's treehouse, claiming it encroached on a common easement. I used publicly available county survey maps and plat records, cross-referencing them with the HOA's own historical documents. I found something delicious. Brenda's own property, the largest and most expensive on the block, had several critical violations. Her new, enormous shed was built a full 2 feet over the designated setback line. Her extravagant, unapproved koi pond, an improvement she boasted about at every meeting, was partially constructed on a designated utility easement. And the piece de resistance, her prized, custom-built stone mailbox, the very design she had tried to force on everyone, was installed 6 inches over her own property line, encroaching on the sidewalk, a clear violation of municipal ordinance and HOA bylaws, punishable by hefty daily fines. The same violation she had tried to fine me for, multiplied by 10. The annual HOA meeting was set for October. I reserved my slot to speak, vaguely indicating a matter of community interest. I prepared a meticulous presentation. Slides with zoomed-in satellite imagery, county plat maps overlaid with my own survey measurements, copies of bylaws highlighted in neon yellow, bank statements, and even a recording of Brenda's own voice from a previous meeting, boasting about her presidential stipend. I didn't want to just win. I wanted to utterly annihilate her credibility. The community hall was packed. Brenda, resplendent in a designer pantsuit, presided with her usual air of dismissive authority. After the usual mundane reports, it was my turn. I walked to the podium, my heart a cold, steady drum. "Good evening, everyone," I began, my voice calm, almost understated. "My name is John Thompson, and I live at 1422 Evergreen Lane. I'm here tonight to discuss a pattern of what I believe are significant issues within our HOA's governance." Brenda leaned forward, a condescending smile on her face. "Mr. Thompson, we are well aware of your grievances regarding your unique garden aesthetic. This is hardly the forum for individual complaints." "On the contrary, Mrs. Sterling," I replied, pressing a button on the remote, bringing up my first slide, a magnified image of my oak tree, vibrant and healthy. "My complaints are, in fact, representative of a much larger pattern. Here, we see my oak tree. It is protected under Article VI, Section 3 of our bylaws. Yet the president demanded its removal." I methodically went through each of her false accusations, presenting undeniable evidence. The mailbox, the lawn height, the non-existent solar gnome, the arbitrary dog park threat against Mrs. Henderson, citing specific bylaw articles that disproved every single one of Brenda's claims. Each slide was accompanied by a precise, almost clinical explanation of how Brenda had either misrepresented or outright fabricated violations. The murmurs in the room grew louder. Brenda's face began to lose its composure, her smile tightening. "This is ridiculous," she interjected, voice sharp. "You're wasting everyone's time with petty complaints." "Petty?" I asked, my voice still level. The next slide appeared, a detailed spreadsheet of HOA expenditures. "Let's discuss petty, Mrs. Sterling. Here, we have the HOA's financial records. You've expensed over $18,000 in what appear to be personal luxury items disguised as community improvements. And this," I paused, pointing to a specific line, "presidential stipend. $500 every month for 3 years. Article III, Section 7 of our bylaws explicitly states, no board member shall receive monetary compensation for their services to the association." A collective gasp went through the room. Brenda shot out of her chair. "This is slander. These are fabricated documents." "They are certified bank statements and HOA ledgers, Mrs. Sterling," I said, a dangerous calm in my voice. "Audited as required by law upon my request." I then brought up the final set of slides, aerial views of Brenda's own property. "And finally, let's discuss actual bylaw violations. Mrs. Sterling, your new shed, prominently visible here, is 2 feet over the designated setback. Your koi pond, a lovely addition I'm sure, encroaches on a utility easement. And your custom stone mailbox, the design you tried to force on everyone else, is 6 inches over your property line. These are all clear, documented violations of the very bylaws you claim to uphold." Brenda was speechless, her face a ghastly white. You have no right. This is an invasion of privacy." "I have every right," I countered, my voice rising slightly, "as a homeowner to ensure the integrity of our community and the honest stewardship of our funds. Furthermore, under Article VII, Section 4 of the bylaws, any board member found to be in violation of fiduciary duties or in gross disregard of the association's rules is subject to immediate removal by a majority vote of the general membership." Another board member, a quiet accountant named Mark, stood up. "Mr. Thompson is correct. I have reviewed his findings. The financial discrepancies are undeniable, and the property violations, they're blatant. This is a clear breach of trust." The room erupted. People were shouting, demanding Brenda's resignation, demanding answers. Brenda tried to regain control, banging her gavel, but her authority had shattered. She was a deposed monarch, her kingdom in revolt. The fallout was swift and decisive. By a unanimous vote of the general membership, Brenda didn't even get her own vote, as she was technically removed from the board before the full vote for president. Brenda Sterling was stripped of her presidency and banned from holding any future HOA positions. The newly formed interim board immediately initiated a full forensic audit of all HOA finances, a process that uncovered even more of Brenda's dubious expenditures. Her presidential stipend was clawed back, along with other misspent funds. The municipal authorities were notified of her property line violations. The lawsuit she had initiated against me was summarily dismissed, with the HOA's legal counsel agreeing to cover my minimal legal fees. The tables had turned with brutal efficiency. Brenda's reign of terror was over. Update 1. 3 weeks later, just wanted to give an update on the Brenda situation. The forensic audit is complete. Turns out she mismanaged nearly $40,000 over her tenure, not just 18. Most of it was her trying to get rich off consulting fees to her unqualified friends and family for phantom projects. The interim board has voted unanimously to pursue legal action against her to recover the funds. She's been hit with a mountain of fines from the city for her own property violations. That mailbox alone racked up a daily penalty she'd ignored for months. Her house, the symbol of her status, is now sporting no less than 5 brightly colored violation stickers. Poetic justice, really. Update 2. 3 months later, things are moving fast. Brenda's property is now officially on the market. She couldn't afford the mounting legal fees, the HOA clawbacks, or the city fines. I saw her packing a moving truck last week, looking considerably less Baroness-like than before. Mrs. Henderson's roses are thriving, and the dog park idea was immediately scrapped. The HOA is electing a new, genuinely community-minded board next month. Feels good to breathe clean air in my garden again without fear of some arbitrary threat. Update 3. 6 months later, final update, boys. Brenda Sterling is gone. Her house sold for significantly less than she paid, no doubt due to the lien placed by the HOA and the necessity to fix all her violations. I heard she moved to a condo complex where she wouldn't have any power, which is the cruelest punishment for someone like her. The new HOA board is great, actually listens to residents, and my oak tree is still standing tall. My garden is flourishing, my mailbox is original, and peace has returned to my little slice of suburban heaven. The quiet ones, remember, are often the most dangerous.